everybody. Hopefully you'll find this interesting, what I've got to share with you today. I want to talk just briefly about the history about unified communications. You guys may not know this, but the first video phone system was actually designed back in 1956. Turns out that it wasn't commercially available for 9 years later, and actually one of the first places it was put was at the World Fair. And so they actually used it at the World Fair as a demo, but certainly very interesting. Some of us in the room may actually even remember a time when a phone number rang to multiple houses. So instead of having your own personal phone, you shared a phone with your neighbor. And that was, of course, advancement, because before that you had the telegraph, and there in between you had a phone that you could pick up, but you had to get an operator to help maneuver through the system. Okay? So, I want to also then talk about HP. HP's been around for a handful of years and has actually been doing video conferencing since probably mid to late 80s. Very point-to-point, very expensive, using the full satellite dishes to send and receive signals, and it was very cumbersome. We actually developed a system working with our friends in Pixar because they wanted to be able to do real-time communications between labs. We developed a system with them where you basically walk into a conference room and you're immersed in a video conferencing experience. So I've got some pictures here where you wind up being in a conference room. Their conference room looks just like yours. You can actually bring in 3 other locations and you feel like you're basically right there. One of the disadvantages, of course, that we've learned is that you can't mute one location. So you've got to be careful what you say. And whispering on the side isn't a good idea. We have actually started moving more to a point-to-point solution. So instead of walking into a conference room, you can do the same kind of video conferencing at your desk, you name it. We're also heading into using Microsoft Lync, which is widely available, and then we can integrate conference rooms and point-to-point. Whereas right now you're either in a conference room using video or you're at your desk using webcam. The two haven't mixed and met yet, at least not at HP. We're doing that. We're moving into this new environment using Lync. So I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on the history of the current state. I want to talk about where we're headed. One of the things that we talk about is virtualization. I work in Fort Collins. Nobody else on my manager's direct staff works in Fort Collins. So we are located across the world, Singapore, Ireland, New Jersey, 2 locations in Texas, California, and Idaho. Plus myself in Fort Collins. So you can certainly see we've got some challenges that go beyond technology. One of them is, when are you off? Okay? If you think about it, our friends in Singapore wind up having a lot of late or early calls as a result of the globalization. Our friends in Ireland wind up having a lot of late afternoon, evening calls, so they'll put their kids to bed and then they'll get back online. One of the things to consider is, even though video is a possibility, the reality is they don't always want video on, because sometimes they're taking these calls in their pajamas, for example, as they're interacting with their families. One of the other things to point out is that my boss actually is in New Jersey. So when you think about it, if I want to see my boss and have any FaceTime with him, besides getting on an airplane, he and I are using video, if we want that interaction. But this presentation goes beyond video. This goes into complete unified communications. Let's make sure there's nothing else I wanted to talk about in this slide. Okay. So I want to talk about going into unified communications, which is going beyond video, recognizing that some things are just as important as video. So for example, presence aware. You guys ever used Instant Messenger, and it says on there if the person's available, busy, and a phone call, etc.? Okay, we're moving to a state where our devices can indicate to others what's happening with us at the moment. For example, I want to talk to my boss. On what we use, Microsoft Office Communicator is one of our instant messaging devices for the moment. And on the display for him, it will tell me if he's on a call, and that will mean that he's physically got a phone up to his ear and isn't able to talk, or he's in a conference, which may mean that he's in a room. It may mean that he's on a phone call but using a different technology than his cell phone. Or it will let me know if he's available, things like that. So it tells me the kind of situation he's in, so I know if I'm about to interrupt him, to what to expect. The same thing is true for him. Now, you may think that works great for going across the United States, but it actually works really well locally. So, for example, Fort Collins campus for HP is actually very big, about 1,000 people. I wanted to go talk to somebody, and I could look at their presence-aware situation and find that they were, their status was that they were at their computer and working. Okay, so I could take the walk and go over and talk to them, and I might have pushed a little message to them saying, are you available? But I noticed that their presence aware says that the chances of them being at their desk are pretty good. They're not on a phone, and so I was able to go ahead and walk over and meet them. So, it goes beyond just that. The other thing, any medium. You guys going to college right now and graduating soon, I hope you can help me. I got a couple problems, and I'm looking to you guys to fix some things in the future. Mobile phone, desk phone, laptop and PC, conference rooms, studio rooms. It used to be, like I said, one number for a couple houses. Now, how many phone numbers do you guys have? Maybe you guys only have one. Wait till you get a job. And you got one at your desk. If somebody wants to call you on your computer, it's maybe not a number, right? But they click on a button saying they want to connect to you via voice over IP on your computer. If you had a pager, used to be pagers, plus if you have a home phone and a cell phone, that's crazy. There's a lot of places that you can be reached, a lot of ways to reach you. Google Voice. I know Google's our poster child, but Google Voice, for example, attempts to go beyond that. I can give out one phone number, and it will know, based on some parameters I've given it, where I'm going to be available when. And so if you call that number, it will ring multiple options for me, and I can answer your call at any of those locations. And if I leave, for example, let's say I answered at my house, one of the options with Google Voice is you can then transfer it to your cell phone, keep the call going, and then leave your location. So certainly some challenges now where we've got this convergence, and you may say, well, just get a cell phone and that's the solution. But some of us like having a landline. Maybe we've got kids at home, and even if they had a cell phone, we want something that's a little more robust, a little more reliable at this point. The other thing, any location. So a company, home, campus, traveling, partners' offices, public internet, you name it. We need to be available. And it goes beyond video, it's got audio, and then collaboration. Here's a scenario that happens about once every other week at this point. If I have a video conference with my boss's team sitting at my desk, I can share out what I'm looking at on my desktop while they're seeing me on video and I'm seeing them on video. So we have two-way communication there. And for example, I have two monitors. I'll put my presentation on one, and I'll put all the pictures of them and the real-time display on the other, so I can see the real-time interaction, plus I'm using audio. And so you start thinking about the fact that you've got to get a lot of that down the pipe. So let's say, for example, that I'm here today, and let's say that I needed to have a conference where I needed to see something someone was showing me. We're just now starting to get to the point where you can share a desktop using, so I could see a coworker's desktop on my phone. We're just starting to get into that, and then try and figure out how to push that down the pipeline and make it meaningful at the same time, okay? So, certainly an interesting challenge of where we are and where we're going. A cool experience I had at my house recently. I was trying to figure out, I miss phone calls, so does my wife, because people will call our cell phone. We get home, we take our phone out, we put it on the counter, and if we're upstairs, we don't hear it. And I don't know about you guys, but I don't always keep the phone in my pocket once I'm home. Cool invention came out just recently, where I've got this technology at home, where anytime I walk home, my phone senses that, my home phone senses that I'm home, and it will pair up with my phone using Bluetooth. And it's one of those cordless handset devices that has handsets throughout the house. And so anytime my cell phone rings, it will ring all the handsets in the house, and I can pick it up from any handset, regardless of what room I'm in. Really cool technology, right? I can make calls outgoing from my handset using my cell phone or using my landline. So whichever I choose to use, it will enable that. I think we need to get a lot further down that path. But one of the things that you'll find is because we're communicating so often, we actually, you guys will probably notice this, but texting works really good for short quips. So does instant messaging, but sometimes you want to get somebody on the phone. You're either tired of typing, and if you work all day long in a corporate environment, you can get that way, or you just need to convey something using your voice that needs to happen. So, for example, I spend a lot of my days on the telephone. One of my coworkers, as we were coming up here to talk to a university club last night, he said, I'm going to have to deal with my headset here before I ever show up, because you get that headset here. But one of the things I'm looking to this generation to define and help us solve is, one headset that takes care of everything all day long for me. Whereas right now, I have a headset for my computer. And I actually got lucky, I got a cool switch, so it will work for my computer, it will work for my telephone at the office, but then I go put my cell phone, I got a different headset. And I get home for my home phone, I got a different headset. I went looking for headsets the other day and I bought one, and it would let me pair up to 2 devices. 2! I don't know about you guys, but that's just not enough. So I look to the future generations to help me solve that problem, where we talked about in the plenary session just opened up just now, of more real-time communication and being able to integrate all of that. At some point, the systems ought to know when I'm wherever I'm at, and let me choose the medium I want to use, or consolidate them and have that. Okay? A couple of other things. You guys say, but you really need a laptop, you really need a cell phone, you really need a tablet, you really need all those different things. Their use cases are so different. Could you guys, and the other thing is, could you guys imagine not having something to fidget with anymore? So back when I was at university here, and I don't mean to date myself, but I was an early adopter cell phone user. And I forgot to turn my cell phone off in a class and it rang in the middle of class. I gotta tell you how embarrassed I was. You guys probably experience it often now. But we have gone from there to where we actually all carry these devices, but the reality is you still open up your laptops when you want to see more information, when you want to get more information. I get home, I don't want just a small laptop monitor, I want a bigger monitor. So I put my laptop into a docking station, and it allows more. Where I'm going with this, though, is that one device is probably not going to be able to solve all of our problems. We're still going to have that challenge for a while now. The next thing I want to mention is also, we're moving from where I had a work laptop and I had a personal laptop, I had a work phone, I had a personal phone. It's converging. I use my work phone for personal, or my personal phone for work things, and I also use it for personal things. That's converging. Occasionally we'll need to use my work laptop for things personal. The whole space is starting to come together, and I feel like it's going to keep heading that direction, where instead of having separate devices and separate lives, we're going to have to integrate. Especially, like I mentioned, being globally dispersed. If I have to get up at 6, 7 a.m. to take a phone call with somebody in Europe, or if we're going to work late at night so that I can talk to somebody in Singapore without making them be the ones up late at night, that's converging, so that we're starting to see that. The other question you got to ask yourself is cloud versus local media. The cloud's really cool until you guys hit the airplane, right? And all of a sudden you've got 2, 3, 4, 8, 10 hours where you are away from the cloud. And until they solve the problem of being able to bring the cloud to an airplane, or even in a remote place, there's always going to be the need for local data, local content, local media. My in-laws are great examples. They live in the mountains of Colorado. It turns out that about a 36K connection on a dial-up modem is doing good for them. And so you've got to recognize when I go there to visit, if I want media with me, I have to bring it with me, on a hard drive, on a phone, etc. So those are some of the considerations. We still have to get to that last mile for many people. We haven't gotten there yet. Okay? The other thing is your wireless company. If you think about it, if you start to enable multiple devices to be wireless, are you really needing to pay them for every device? Or can we set up something so that your wireless company recognizes you regardless of the device that you're on, and it's, whether you call it tethering, call it what you want, but basically enable devices to be wireless for you regardless of where you are for a flat rate. Okay, so I think one of the challenges, I've already talked about those headsets. I'm looking at you guys to figure that out, and then also around one number for our communication. It looks like it's really cool stuff, but we've got to solve some big problems, but the reality is, like I said, when I was a kid, it was multiple people would get a call for one number. And if you were wanting to make a call, you had to check and see if your neighbor was on it. Today, we're immersed in it, and now we need to bring it to a location where basically we can manage that, we can use it to our benefit, we can go video, we can share what we're seeing, whether it's on our desktop, whether it's in front of us. We can use a phone, a cell phone, we can use a landline, and have crisp, clear communications. Anyway, that's what I wanted to share with you today.